Hello bookworms! Today I'm going to be talking about my most anticipated fantasy reads of 2017. Ideally, this should be a shorter video than my most anticipated contemporary reads because a lot of these are sequels to books that are already out there, so I can't give too much of a synopsis of them. There are some new fantasy books that I am looking forward to as well, so those ones I'll talk a little bit more in depth about, and just like my contemporary video, I will tell you the release date and I will insert a photo of the cover for each book that I talk about. So the first book on my list is Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken, which was released on January 3rd, which is actually today when I'm filming this video. I have been lucky enough to already read Wayfarer and I really enjoyed it. It was a really great conclusion to Passenger, which was the first book in this duology. It's a historical fiction and it follows two characters named Nicholas and Etta who are traveling through time to find this artifact in order to preserve the current timeline. The story is really, really well written. If you are interested in history at all, I would definitely recommend checking it out because you'll get to check out some like really interesting places and go a little bit more in depth into certain past events. So it's just a really fun read. So yes, I definitely recommend this one. Next on my list is Wind Witch by Susan Dennard. This is the second book in the Witchland series, the first book being Truth Witch. Cassie, Melissa, and I actually read Truth Witch as our January book of the month for last year's Spines with Wines. So there's a good chance that Wind Witch will be our January pick for 2017 because why not? Like, follow along the trend. But we all really, really loved Wind Witch very, very much. It follows like two best friends and there's a really cool magic system and people have these different abilities that are called witches, like based on different things that they're able to do. And they're all kind of based on different elements of like earth, water, fire, air, whatever, like list goes on. But it's very similar to like an Avatar The Last Airbender type universe. And the first book was really good and everyone who's been reading the second one has said incredible things about it. I believe I said it comes out January 10th and I cannot wait for it. It is one of my most anticipated, obviously, because it's on this list. Susan Dennard also tweeted a really, really good recap of Truth Witch. So if you just read her recap, and there's lots of GIFs, so it's really fun, before you go into Wind Witch, then you'll be all caught up. And when she did, I was like, oh my god, now I'm even more excited for Wind Witch to come out already. Next on my list is Roseblood by A.G. Howard. This book also comes out on January 10th, and this is a Phantom of the Opera retelling. I'm really interested in reading this book because I loved A.J. Howard's Beauty and the Beast retelling, The Architect of Song. So I'm really interested to see what else she's doing. This is a YA book, whereas the other one was NA, and I haven't really read any of her other stuff before, so I'm definitely intrigued. I've heard a couple mixed reviews about it, but that honestly makes me more interested because I'm just curious like whether I will love it or not love it. But yeah. Next on my list is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This comes out on January 31st. This is another book that I've already read, but I love it to pieces. It is such a great fantasy novel. It is compared to The Night Circus, but it's definitely its own story. It is in no way a Night Circus retelling, but it definitely captures like the same kind of magic and air of mystery that The Night Circus has. So it was such an enjoyable read. I really, really love the main character in it. Her name is Scarlett, and she gets caught up in the game of Caraval, which is kind of like an interactive show that takes place once a year. You can only attend if you've been invited to attend. It's very hard to get tickets to, and people like live to go to this show, and it is just incredible. Like, everything about it. I loved it so much, and my full review for that is going to be coming very soon because I already filmed that one. Next on my list is Rise of Fire by Sophie Jordan. This comes out on February 7th, and this is also the second book. I'm not sure if this is a series or if this is a duology or a trilogy or what is going on with it. The first book was called Reign of Shadows, and I really, really enjoyed it. It is a Rapunzel retelling, and the main character is a diverse character, but I don't want to go into really how that is because it comes as a little bit of a surprise, but you learn very early on, but I just don't want to spoil it in case you haven't read it yet. I really, really enjoyed the first one, and I thought that the ending was like such a cliffhanger. Like, I can't wait to find out how, like, what's gonna happen next because it really, really hooked me, and then the ending just got me like, oh, like I was almost like a little bit annoyed because it was such a cliffhanger, but I really liked it. So if you haven't read the first one, now is a good time because you won't have to wait an entire year before you find out what the next scene is going to be. Next, I want to read The Lonely Hearts Hotel by Heather O'Neill, and this is also coming out on February 7th. This book is also pitched as something that fans of the Night Circus would enjoy. In reading the description, it really sounds much more like a direct kind of retelling of the Night Circus, so I am interested because I love that book. So it follows two orphans in, I believe it's like the early to mid 1900s. One of them is a very gifted pianist, and then the other one is a very gifted dancer. So they actually work together in a traveling circus, which is how they meet. And then once they're teenagers, they get separated. And the story is about that time, like while they're separated and their journey back to one another. Next on my list is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. This is another one that comes out on February 7th, so that seems to be a big day for fantasy this year. But this one I'm really excited for because first of all, I love Neil Gaiman. He's like one of my favorite authors of all time. But he decided to rewrite all of the Norse myths in his own words. Neil Gaiman retelling Norse myths is like high on my list of things that I want to read. I'm really excited for it. I really love the cover. I think it looks really beautiful. And I just can't wait to get my hands on this one. Next on my list is Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. This one comes out on February 28th, and it is about a 17-year-old girl who is a like captain of pirates, and she intentionally lets herself get kidnapped because she's trying to retrieve this like ancient map. So it is a debut novel about a girl out at sea, and it's going to be full of pirates and finding this map to try to get treasure, so it perfectly caters to my interests and hopefully yours as well. Next up, I want to read Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This one comes out on March 28th, and it was actually supposed to come out last year. I got a chapter sampler of it from BEA, but I have not read it yet because I wanted to read it very close to the release date because it was actually kind of like a meaty chapter sampler, which is unusual. But I am thankful that I waited since it got pushed back so much and I never would have remembered what I had read going into it. So the Goodreads description doesn't give you like a whole lot to go on with this book, but we know that it takes place in a city that has just like undergone the aftermath of a war between gods and men. So there's a good chance that it could sort of be related to the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series, but I'm not 100% clear on that. I actually have to finish that one so that I can be all caught up before this book comes out, but I'm looking forward to it because Laini Taylor's writing is just gorgeous. Next on my list is Given to the Sea by Mindy McGinnis. This book comes out on April 11th, and to be honest, I added this one immediately just because I fell in love with Mindy McGinnis's The Female of the Species last year, and I am absolutely going to read all of her books going forward. This one definitely sounds interesting because it's not a contemporary read like the last one was. She's going to be delving kind of into the world of fantasy. It says that it follows a girl who is born to be given to the sea, but before she is able to do that, she's kind of required to like produce an heir. But she hasn't done it yet, and she doesn't have any interest in reproducing in any way. So she actually, like, the reason that she's going to be kind of sacrificed, I guess, to the sea is because there was a giant wave that had ruined the kingdom that she currently lives in, like, way in the past. So it's her destiny to be, like, sacrificed in order to prevent another wave from coming and destroying the kingdom again. But before she's able to do that, she does need to produce this heir. Next on my list is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. This is the third book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and it comes out on May 2nd. This is the third book and the conclusion to the A Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy. There will be a couple more books, but they're going to be companion novels. They're not going to be following the same characters that we've been following since ACOTAR. Speaking of acronyms, I love that the third book is, like, the acronym of it is ACOWAR. I think it's just so perfect for, like, everything that we've been building up to. I don't really think there's much that needs to be said about this. Everyone in the world has, if you watch BookTube, knows about A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury, which was, like, a lot of people's favorite book for last year, mine included. So this is definitely like the top of my anticipation list. Next on my list is The Flame in the Mist by Renee Ahdieh. This is coming out on May 16th, and it is Renee Ahdieh's new series. You may remember that she wrote The Wrath and the Dawn and The Rose and the Dagger, which concluded last year. So this is going to be her new fantasy series, and it sounds really, really, really good. It follows a girl named Mariko who does not have any control of her future because she's the daughter of a prominent samurai, and her father has arranged a marriage for her, and it's kind of like a political alliance that will help elevate his status in their society. She doesn't necessarily want to do it, but then when she's traveling on the way to that kingdom, she ends up getting attacked by these people that are in a group called the Black Clan. So she is able to get away from them. Then she dresses up as a male peasant and she goes like to them and kind of infiltrates their group. And then she learns like about this whole history, and it says there's lots of secrets, and she questions everything that she knew. So it sounds really good, and I really loved Renee Audier's other books, so I can't wait to see what she's going to be doing next, and it sounds like something that I'm going to love. Next on my list is The Savage Dawn by Melissa Gray. This book is coming out on July 11th, and it is the third and final book in the Girl at Midnight series. I've been really anticipating this one. I loved Melissa's first and second books like so much, and I really just like am dying for the conclusion because I can't wait to see what's gonna happen. I've talked about The Girl at Midnight like so many times on my channel, but it follows a very sassy main character named Echo who is trying to stop this war between the Avicen, which is a race of like bird people, and the Draken, which is like a race of dragon people. And the war, it's been going on for like ages. So it's really cool to see like her little group and who she allies herself with. And I just really cannot wait to read the conclusion. Next on my list is The Thousandth Floor #2 by Catherine McGee. It doesn't say if there's going to be a new title or anything yet, but it comes out on August 29th, and it's the second book in the Thousandth Floor series. I really loved the first book. The Thousandth Floor is a sci-fi book. It's set in the year 2118, and it follows a group of very privileged Manhattanites who live in this building that is 1,000 floors high, and this building now encompasses like all of Manhattan. So instead of Manhattan being spread out over the island, there's really just this one building, and they've created like an artificial central park on one floor, and like it just sounds so cool. And the higher that you go, the more wealthy people are, and the lower that you go, the closer they are to like the poverty line. So it sounds really interesting. It followed a couple of main characters, and all of their stories were interwoven, and you got to find out more and more about them as the book progressed. But the really exciting thing was that at the beginning of the first book, one character falls to their death from the top of the 1,000th floor of this building, but we don't know who it is until the end of the first book. So now having that knowledge, it's going to be so exciting to go into the second book and figure out like where things are going to go from here, because it got crazy. And then finally on my list is Throne of Glass #6 by Sarah J. Maas. It does not have a title yet, it doesn't have a cover yet, doesn't have a release date yet, except that it's going to come out in September of 2016. All of her books do tend to come out usually like within the first week of September for Throne of Glass. I just really am so excited to like read the conclusion and see how that series is going to wrap up. Initially follows a girl named Selena who is an assassin, and there's a whole long journey that she goes through within the 5 books that are currently out. So if you haven't read them, you have a lot of catching up to do. But it's a really great series. I really enjoy it, and I just really am looking forward to the conclusion. I feel like there are a lot of great series that are wrapping up in 2017 or continuing in 2017. So I'm just really excited for this whole year of reading. So let me know if there are any other fantasy novels that you're looking forward to that maybe I didn't mention. Also, if you know of any like adult fantasy that seems to be very intriguing, because I'm trying to read more of that going into 2017. So I'm looking for recommendations. I've read a ton of top adult fantasy books that you should read lists, but a lot of them have like a similar list of books, and a lot of them I have read, but I want to really find more. So let me know your recommendations, and that is all that I have for this video, and I'll see you guys in a new one. Bye!